Hi, I'm Rhonda.
Hey, I'm Angie, and we're Adventures in Nomadness. Hey, so good morning. We're waiting on our tour bus right now. Sometimes you can wait a few minutes because I got a bunch of pickups to do and everything. But we did go with a company called Your Day Tours. They're a small tour company, or they offer small group tours versus the big gray line and Reykjavik excursions, which can be 50 or more people on a big, huge bus. And I'm not into that. Neither is Rhonda.
A lot of waiting to get on and a lot of waiting to get off and a lot of waiting for people, you know, herding cats.
Blah, blah, blah. And I'm not really into group tours anyway, but we wanted to just, if we were going to do a tour, just do a really small group. So we're waiting on them, and it's super windy this morning, but that's okay. Hopefully that will dissipate, but hey, we're in an environment that's kind of prone to more wind. Definitely kind of flat and open right here in Reykjavik, but we had a fantastic day yesterday, and I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to someone else driving.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about it, we'd have to spend time picking up a rental car, dropping off a rental car, putting gas in a rental car. But beyond that, for a one-day thing, so
doesn't she look cute with her hood over her eyes?
We opted for just having somebody else drive, so we wouldn't have to do all that. Spend that kind of time.
Yeah, we'll just have a stress-free kind of day with someone else doing the driving.
I'll tell you this much: every single family has a family recipe of just this pastry, because, well, let's just say that the baker here, he has a grandmother. His grandmother, she made this. No self-respecting baker will ever put this out on his table unless he has managed to perfect his grandmother's recipe. This is why you know this is going to be that good. Ostapungur is a deep fried pastry with a doughy center and has some raisins in it. To my amusement, it actually translates directly into English. Ostapungur will translate as love scrotum.
Okay, so far our tour has taken us to Gullfoss Waterfall, Faxi Waterfall, and now we're at the Geysirs. Our guide has regaled us with all kinds of tales of elves and geothermal production and farming and
ghosts,
Icelandic horses and
wild animals, which they only have a small number
like
of.
5.
And yeah, and the great thing about elves, Icelandic elves, is that the government actually accounts for them, and this is a factual thing. That is to say that you can have an official elf person come and investigate.
Yeah.
And they
He
can
swears this is all
actually
true.
sign off on the fact that it is an elf area, and then you can divert roads around it, you can make it unbuildable, all kinds of stuff, and the government will uphold that finding.
So far, Scotland, whose national animal is a unicorn, and Iceland with their elves, I'm kind of really liking these two countries.
Well, they have Nessie, and we come from Bigfoot country, so there's some correlation there.
Cool. Well, this geyser is supposed to go off every 10 to 15 minutes. I think if you've been to Yellowstone, this will be...
I think it's getting ready to go here.
Yeah, it feels like it might be. Anyway, if you've been to Yellowstone, this is kind of the same thing with Old Faithful, where it goes off kind of on a regular basis. Okay, where are we? Can you say the name of this national park?
No.
I can't either.
It's a national park, that much I know.
It's a Thingvellir, something like that. And it is where the North American and the European plates are separating. Tectonic plates are separating. Really beautiful with all this volcanic rock and this big chasm. And we're heading up on a trail where our guide's going to meet us up top there. But there's also a snorkel you can do, sulfur snorkel you can do kind of down there somewhere in the park. I thought about doing it, but then we didn't really have time to. And Rana's not a big swimmer anyway. Maybe next time. So I think we'll definitely be back here again. We're in a camper van and do the whole ring road over about 2 weeks.
Yeah, we met a couple having coffee yesterday that had basically, I rented a Class C, I guess.
Big one, they said.
They were going to spend a couple weeks doing that.
Yeah, they're from Albuquerque. Our guide
Not
said
used to bad weather driving. I think that's probably the only caution would be that most of the accidents are foreigners driving here.
So it's the day after our Golden Circle tour yesterday, and we wanted to talk a little bit more about that as far as if we would recommend it, or, you know, I think it just really kind of depends on your travel style. For us, it was worth it, but it's not my style of travel normally. The tour guide was excellent, by the way.
And here's why we don't. Because for us, a lot of time spent at the geysers is not value added for us because we've seen geysers.
Yeah, if you've been to Yellowstone, I think you might be a little disappointed.
It's okay to stop there, but we didn't want to spend. We would, if we had been traveling our own, we probably wouldn't have spent very much time there. Some of the other ones that are more unique features, I'd say,
like Gullfoss,
right?
Waterfall was really cool. I could have spent more time there. So I think if you're gonna, want to rent a car, I would probably suggest that if you're comfortable doing that. We were just kind of burnt out from the rest of our trip that we didn't really want to have to think about it. So renting a car and doing your own Golden Circle thing, it'd be pretty easy to do, actually, and then you can spend as little time or as much time at each of the places that you want.
Now, on the plus side, when you're having somebody drive you, you're getting more of a cultural overview, which you can do yourself, but, I mean, his stories were great. I mean, he talked about elves and kind of how all that worked, and his perspective on there was like a haunted area, and what else, he talks about the animals there. He gives tips on places to eat and food he recommends, and took us out to a horse place where you could get wool there that they were hand making,
and an ice cream place where they make they milk the cows right there.
Right. So
in the
there
same
was
building.
So on
cool.
that end of it, you might find some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily find on your own. You might, but because you explore and potentially find other places yourself. But so those were the plus side, and you don't have the stress of driving yourself. So you don't have one person getting to look around, the other person not. So I mean, there's pros and cons. But
yeah, the cons are you're on someone else's schedule, and there's always the same people that are late getting back to the bus every single time.
Like you're ready to go, so then you're sitting there waiting. So I mean, there's a lot of wasted time that way. So I mean, that's all stuff that we already knew, but
it was a great
sharing
tour.
Pros and cons. There are pros and cons, and we're kind of ready to just let somebody else do the driving for us and not have the pickup and drop off hassles of a rental car.
Yeah, overall, Golden Circle was pretty cool, but we definitely like to do kind of a deeper dive. Only spending about a half an hour in the national park. Well, we're national park geeks, so I could have spent probably a few days there just kind of camping around and hiking.
At least hiking. So there was certainly ridges and stuff you could go explore, and a lot more panels to
We saw
read.
some camper vans in some of the parking lots, so I think it's really doable that way. So this was, we knew in advance, it was at the end of our big trip to Scotland, and we just had a couple days. I mean, really 3 full days. It's not a lot of time to really go out and do a lot of stuff. So the Golden Circle is kind of the main thing. We decided not to do the Blue Lagoon because it's really expensive and it's not really our thing anyway, but it's a good option for somebody when you're coming into town to do it as part of the bus ride in. They'll drop you off there and then you take a bus back into town. So it's a really good thing to do when you're coming into the airport, because I think it's kind of halfway between the airport and Reykjavik city center. So this was just kind of our 3-day introductory tour to Iceland and Reykjavik, and I think we're going to come back at some point for a much longer time, rent a camper van like we did in Scotland, a little bit bigger camper van though, that way what we had there, and then do something
Roads are
like the
bigger
ring.
here, so
yeah, and then drive on the right hand side of the road, so it's a lot easier. And then and I'm used to driving in the snow and ice, so if we're here in September I wouldn't have a problem with that too much, but doing the ring road and spending a couple weeks doing that and really doing a deeper dive into the amazing geographical phenomenon that is Iceland. It's so, and geological. This is such a cool place, and we barely scratched the surface. And doing the Golden Circle on a tour, you just kind of barely see what's out there. So we're pretty excited to come back at some point and really dive in deeper next time. Well, we're off to horseback riding tomorrow, but we're going to spend the rest of the day here
Exploring
in Reykjavik.
museums, walking around. It's fun doing that. Probably one of my most favorite thing to do is not to have a plan and just explore a town.
Yeah. And look at that cool Harpa. Their big concert and performance hall. It's an architectural phenomenon. I'm a dork.
In about 1,000 years, it might be archaeological.
It's very architecturally cool. Hey, we just went. Rhonda's looking at me funny. Start again.
I look at you funny all the time. You just don't notice.
I do notice, actually. Okay, so we just made our way to the National Museum of Iceland. We didn't take any video or photos inside. It was just really dark, and it's really hard to capture things that we're seeing and really get kind of the essence of a museum we're finding. But it was fantastic, and we can highly recommend it. It was a fantastic history of Iceland in general, plus really good cultural information.
I think it really kind of talks about the evolution and how they came about becoming a sovereign nation, which didn't happen until 1944, so relatively
It's still
young.
a really young nation.
And it also talks about the religion and how religion played a role in kind of how they came about, that kind of thing. So I found that really interesting, along with the art, I think.
And there is other art museums too. So
this really does focus on that. They have a ton of museums.
Yeah, a lot of museums. So let's talk about museums and how freaking expensive they are here in Iceland, just like everything else. It's extremely expensive. We got spoiled in Scotland because it was free. All the museums were free
and give donations, which I prefer.
Yeah, it's really nice. So we've been to 2 museums so far. One was a settlement museum, and that probably cost us 15 to 18 each. And then this museum was 2,000 kroner, which is I'm just doing a rough equivalency here of about $18 each. So that adds up fast, but there's alternatives. So if you really like museums, don't skip them if you're a museum person, just because of the cost. There's ways of getting around that, and really the best way is to get the Reykjavik city card. We knew because we were going to be here one full day, wanting to walk around a lot, and then another full day after our tour yesterday that we probably didn't have a lot of time. But if you are here for a couple straight days and you're a museum person, the Reykjavik city card for a 24-hour pass is 3,900 krona, which is roughly $35 or so. You can get one for 48 hours, which is about $50 per person, and you can get one for 72 hours. That's going to be about $65 per person. It covers a lot. It covers the city buses in the kind of the downtown zone, covers a bunch of the thermal pools right in Reykjavik, plus a bunch of museums that include the National Museum, which we just went to, the National Gallery, the National History Museum, the Culture House, the zoo, on and on, the Settlement Exhibition. And it also covers the Museum of Photography, which we won't make it out to either. I would love to go to that. And there's a ferry to, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but it's a Videy Island, so Videy or Videy Island, which probably is very scenic, which is a short ferry ride. Plus it gives you a ton of really good discounts on other museums that aren't covered and some excursions and restaurants and things like that. So if you're going to be here, you can go online and I think just look up the Reykjavik city card and you should be able to find that online and you can purchase it there. Highly recommend that.
Anytime you can save money and
yeah,
Iceland, you should look into it because you can spend a whole lot of money here.
Yeah, you really can. Not just that, just with the cost of 2 museums, it would have about covered that 24-hour pass for us, and then maybe we would have been inclined to package those up as much into one day as possible and just hit museums and then just tool around on one of the other days. So, yeah. City pass.
Maybe now would be the time to find himself a wife and start a family. So he started searching the island high and low. He went to multiple places, most likely visited a lot of domestic school for young women because that's where the selection was in the old days. And finally found what he believed to be the perfect wife for him. He, really hit it off with her. They talked through the nights and she was beautiful and intelligent and just everything seems to work. And he didn't waste any time, this guy, so he proposed then and there. anything, but was left alone and frightened to face her troll, which later that day came with a wool, threw the neatly spun wool on the floor, and says to our beautiful wife, "Here's your wool! What's my name?" Didn't happen to be Paulina, would it? That's not my name, that's not. Guess again. It wouldn't happen to be Anne, would it? It's not my name, that's not. Guess again. It wouldn't happen to be Gillentrud, would it?